Bala Tripurasundari Devi is like the initiator of someone who is outside the tradition. Like she is the one who can initiate you. She is very welcoming. She is charming. She is lovable. She is innocent. She is playful. So for someone like Charles, who is an outsider, to come into this tradition, how beautiful would it be for Devi to be in that form? This movie is made for Western audiences, even though Indian audiences would connect to it because of the Indian connection. Chiquita, which is the Spanish word for little girl. And that connection, I couldn't have asked for a better title for the movie.
Of course, his background is Christianity. And we know that in Christianity, there is no such thing as divine feminine. And you bring that femininity in maybe as many forms as possible in the movie.
I can only probably discuss these details in Sangam Talks because we have such a good audience who can enjoy this kind of conversation. While I was making Chiquita, I understood the importance of surrender. I had experiences which I felt like are happening and were beyond my control and are happening only because of some grace.
Namaste. Welcome to another sit-down session of Sangam Talks, and today very exciting to have Trivikram Gajapalli ji among us. Trivikram Gajapalli ji has joined us all the way from Texas, US, and he is a filmmaker. So we will today we will talk about his latest movie, which had been released recently. It's called Chiquita. So why this name Chiquita? We will discuss about it and all about it. Before that, let me introduce Trivikram ji as short way as possible. Trivikram Gajapalli ji is a filmmaker, as I mentioned before, and purpose-driven entrepreneur. He has written, directed, and produced feature films and few award-winning shorts among them as well. He sees immense potential in cross-cultural Indic cinema. That's his goal, to make cross-cultural cinemas. And why is that? We will discuss in details about it in our talk. Welcome to Vikram ji. Thank you for joining us today.
Namaste.
So
Namaste, Debasis.
Let me give a description of Chiquita in a brief way. Well, it's about there are many characters in this movie. I watched it and I found it very interesting and entertaining as well. And the aim of the movie is not only entertainment. It's more driven in a dharmic way. So the aim, Trivikram ji will be the best person to explain it. So it's like it started with a fateful night, the rugged Texas landscape, and one motorcyclist, bikers we call them. His name is Charles, the main protagonist, and he's recording from a painful divorce, crashed into a valley, and there he encounters a mysterious little girl. And as we know that Texas is just in a border area with Mexico, and he found a little girl, a brown little girl, right, Trivikramji? And he thought that, who is this Chiquita? So maybe you can explain why this Chiquita.
Sure. Thank you so much for all the introduction, Debasis. I'm super excited to talk to Sangam Talks audience because they are like the gold mine for this film. This film is made for such audiences. So Chiquita, like you introduced, is the story of a Western biker. He encounters a mysterious little girl on one fine night when he crashes into a valley. And that changes his life for good. And this little girl has a deep connection to Indian philosophy and all that. So that's what we will discuss. If anyone is interested in watching in the film, I would say watch the film and then watch the interview, because we are going to discuss a lot of things that are going to be spoilers.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm very excited to talk to Sangam Talk audience. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Vikramji. So my first question will be why, not why, how you came up with this idea to make such a movie, because it's cross-cultural between Indian Sanatani philosophy, our rooted value systems, and how a Texas biker, we have that maybe a little bit over misconception that how bikers are. They are very staunch and they are not very accepted in their way of any foreign culture. to them, India is a foreign culture. So that's the cross culture between a
Yeah.
Texas guy, biker, his philosophical mindset, and the Indian. So please explain.
Yeah, thank you. So there are 2 points to this. One is the cross-cultural cinema itself, and then why Charles and Indian philosophy. So as far as the general cross-cultural context is considered, I see there is huge potential here. I mean, we have so many beautiful stories to tell to the world, and there are uh, uh, so many people who are associated with Hinduism and Sanatan Dharma since the times of Swami Vivekananda, the moment he came to West, and then followed by Paramahamsa Yogananda, Srila Prabhupada of ISKCON, and there are so many Westerners themselves. They run so many organizations here. So I thought if I have to tell a story in English to the Western audiences, I thought I should bring the best of my both worlds, what I know from India and what I have learned here. So I wanted to tell a mainstream English, I mean American story, but which has deep Indian connection. And it has to be organic. Like you mentioned, when we say biker, we have certain impression, and that's
Hmm.
pretty normal understanding everyone has. So we wanted to see how these people in the West discovered Indian philosophy. Sometimes mysterious, sometimes because they traveled to India. There's so many ways. So for every movie, we need a conflict, and we need a special point. So the contrast in the character of Charles as a biker and the
Hmm.
Indian philosophy was wonderful. So that's how the story evolved. Again, I didn't start out to make a movie on. I mean, I had to reveal the secret, I guess, about Devi herself. I mean, I didn't start out to make a movie about Devi, but when I wanted to make a proper English film with Indian context, it flashed in my mind that what if a Texan biker encounters Devi on a dark, deserted space on one fine night? That visual in my mind has triggered a lot of enthusiasm. And I wanted to really write this story. And then I discovered a lot of things which we can discuss in the podcast here.
That's great. So you written it yourself and you directed it.
Yes. I wrote, directed, and produced it myself. Yes.
It's a movie review, we can say that, but it's not entirely that. Our focus is to find the philosophy behind it. And
Yes.
as I mentioned that I already watched that movie, I find very likable that main protagonist character Charles, and
Right.
many more. His young friend, he has a
Yeah.
young friend, his daughter, and her family, and another character. We will talk about that later, maybe. So that's very
Yeah.
interesting. But as an Indian Sanatani Hindu, uh,
Hmm.
I was like very jealous of him as well. I mean, okay, before that, maybe why I become jealous, we should talk about that character Chiquita, that little girl.
Okay.
What about
Okay.
her? There's something interesting. That's the whole thing about the movie. So
Yes.
please.
So, yeah, like we discussed, the whole movie evolves from that one scene where Charles encounters this little girl. So, to let the secret out, this little girl is none other than the form of Devi. So, when I
Hmm.
had this vision of he encountering Devi, I was finding it difficult to convince myself, like, why will a Texan who has no idea of what India is, forget about
Exactly.
Sanatana Dharma and
That's
Hinduism,
that's why I become
right?
jealous.
So,
So
yeah, why
why
would
a
he find
non-believer like
Devi?
him a Texas
Yeah.
biker?
So we did a lot of brainstorming on that, and we found that, see, because he's white, because he's born in America, we are seeing this. We are unable to relate to that. But as far as Sanatan Dharma goes, see, everyone is in this life. Charles is an American and is born in the West. We don't know what his previous life was. We don't know what is his prarabdha karma. We don't know what grace he had from the previous life. I mean,
Okay,
David's grace,
right.
right? So
Hmm.
it's the by saying that oh, it cannot happen to someone who is in the West, we are actually limiting the scope of Sanatana Dharma, saying that it is for a specific place or people. For sure, India is the birthplace of all this, no doubt about that. But it's universally applicable, irrespective of time and place. That's what we talk about when we say Sanatana Dharma, right? So Charles could have been anyone in his previous life. That's number one.
Hmm.
And number two is he is in what kind of state, I mean, his state of mind. what kind of mindset does he have? Is he receptive enough? What kind of experiences he had before this encounter with Devi? And what kind of Devi is he seeing? And what if it's just a bad dream? So there are so many questions. So that's why I'm saying, that's what I said, when that one single visual happened in my mind, it led to
Mm,
all these questions. And I was so fortunate that the more we digged into it, we found really fascinating things that could connect the Sanatana Dharma to this story seamlessly. That was very exciting part for me. Like, why did he call her Chiquita, right? And what is
yeah.
Chiquita? I mean, in the Indian
Mm,
context, when we say we are
mm,
saying Devi, and we are also saying
mm,
Chiquita. So, which Devi is that? As we know in Shakti tradition, and especially in Sri Vidya tradition, Devi is worshipped in various forms, right? The Dasamahavidyas, the Ashtalakshmis, and all that. So when I thought of this guy Charles encountering uh, Devi, I wasn't very convinced he's seeing a Devi in her traditional form. Then I thought, why not think of a little girl? In fact, I'm not a very knowledgeable person on the scripture side. Yes, of course, I have all the inclination to Sanatan Dharma, and I'm born and brought up in India, so I know all those things, but not to the detail that I wanted. So then I found that there is a smaller, younger version, form of Devi, which is nothing but Bala Tripurasundari Devi. So
mm,
she's nothing but the younger form of Lalita Tripurasundari Devi. She's like a
mm,
9-year-old form of Devi. And the beauty of this is Bala Tripurasundari Devi is like the initiator of someone who is outside the tradition. Like she's the one who
mm,
can initiate you. She's very welcoming. She's charming. She's lovable. She's innocent. She's playful. So for someone like Charles, who is an outsider, to come
mm,
into this tradition, how beautiful would it be for Devi to be in that form?
mm,
So I wrote a little girl, and then I found that Bala Tripurasundari Devi is exactly for that, to initiate someone into this tradition. That's exactly why and what Charles wanted. So I was very excited that there is a form of Devi already that way. And then he thinks, because he has never seen any one in that dress, yeah, in that form, that too in a valley where he crashed that night. She probably crossed over the border of US from the Mexico, because this is Texas border. There is a lot of
mm,
immigration. I mean, sometimes legal, sometimes illegal. That happens. People cross over the border and come. So
mm.
his mind switches to Spanish because that's the only other country he is
Like
familiar with.
he saw a
Why would
brown girl,
yeah,
and if you like,
yeah,
I can reveal the Devi
yeah,
in
please,
her,
please go ahead.
full attire.
Yeah,
So we are used to
yeah,
it, but of course, Texan biker like
yeah,
Charles, he obviously
yeah.
didn't used to such attire. So
Correct,
he came up
correct.
with, the brown girl
Yeah,
must be some Mexican girl.
from Texas. Yeah, and it's a little girl, so he thought it's Chiquita, which is the Spanish word for a little girl. And that connection, I couldn't have asked for a better title for the movie, Chiquita,
Mm.
because that's perfect. I'm revealing that it is Devi, but I'm not directly saying it. Unless you watch the film for the first 17 minutes, you wouldn't
Mm.
know what you're going to watch. So that was very exciting to me.
I come up, you already explained it's Bala Tripurasundari Devi.
Yes,
And
yes,
I found one more thing that, of course, it's Charles from Texas, a biker. He obviously is some inclined to, if he is religious, he will explain
yes,
whether he is religious,
yes,
younger
like
self or not. But of course, his background is Christianity, and we know that in
yes,
Christianity there is no such thing as divine feminine, and you bring
yes,
that femininity in maybe
yeah,
as many form as possible in the movie. There are a lot of female
yes.
characters, his wife, his daughter, his young friend, and of course Devi. So
Yeah.
I mean that's very interesting. If you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, I would love to elaborate on that because for my films, even before this Chiquita, I wanted to make an English feature film, which was again based on the experiences of Western Hindus and also Indians in abroad, all that. So I spoke to a lot of Western Hindus for my research. So in one of my conversations, one of my Western Hindu friends says that when he spoke to his girlfriend. And he told that he's looking into Hinduism and all that, and there is divine feminine form.
So
His
that
girlfriend,
girlfriend is from
no, not in
Indian
the movie.
background?
No, no,
Okay.
no. They're
No, no,
all
in real
they're all
life, I'm talking.
Westerners. Yeah, in the real life, they're all Westerners. They're all Americans.
Okay, okay.
So she was in tears. Like, what is there such thing happening? Really? It's like is women respected and like revered like any other male god, like the divine feminine? She was literally moved by that fact. So that was very inspiring to me. It stood with me for a long time. I mean, probably it had some influence on me very deeply. So, like you really mentioned, so when Charles encounters it, he could have thought it's just a bad dream, right? He could have thought, oh, I had some bad dream in the night. So we reinforced this point in the movie in various ways.
Mm,
One aspect of the Western society is that if someone is, he could be hallucinating, he could be imagining things. Maybe he has mental issues. Forget about dream. Maybe he has mental issues, and we should not be trivializing. Like we should not be saying, "Oh, no, 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 it's an experience." So we wanted to eliminate this doubt from the audience, Western audience especially, because this movie is made for Western audiences, even
mm.
though Indian audiences would connect to it because of the Indian connection.
Of
So
course,
we
it's
brought in, yeah,
always
we brought in
relatable
a couple
for
of
anyone.
characters. If you remember, there is a character called Henry,
Henry.
um, who comes back and then on the next day and says that he also saw the girl, right? He
Mm.
also says, I
And
saw the
that
girl, but
character
no one.
Henry is very interesting.
Yes, yeah. So he says that
There's
no one
something
believes
about
me.
him in the storyline.
Yeah, yeah. So he says that no one believes me, but I saw the girl.
Mm,
But this guy, and then he calls up his friend, who's a psychiatrist, right?
mm,
And the psychiatrist says like, okay, he knows Charles. Yeah, he's a very rough guy that we establish in the movie. But he says that maybe you are playing, I mean, we are messing up with the drugs, psychedelics. And he says,
mm,
no. Then he said, in some states of mind, you could have such supernatural experiences, and we can test that. And so
mm,
a series of events happened to Charles after this encounter, and that personal experience brings to him that level of maturity. Now, we didn't focus on what religion he followed before that, but it is pretty given that it would have been
yes.
the Christianity. But what we focused is how his transformation happened after he encountered Devi, and how
Mm,
accepting his family was, and how he tackled that friction between him and his family. Again, we didn't. The goal was to have a conflict in the story, which is very important for the movie to be
mm,
engaging. So we saw that this is a natural conflict in such families of Western Hindus
mm,
who want to explore outside the traditional faiths. They will be frowned upon. They won't be easily like included. So they have to put some effort to make them understand that they are not some radical group doing something
mm,
harmful or anything like
mm.
totally. It's not a cult. The word is cult,
Yes.
right? They might think, oh, this guy is now running a cult or
Mm,
whatever. So we were trying to balance that and establish. The idea is to bring the understanding between the communities,
mm,
right? They understand each other, they coexist. We don't have problem with anyone. And we want to make sure that others understand us enough so that they don't feel we are a threat to them. Right. So
mm.
in this day and age, I think this is very important, and that's what we tried explaining with
And I
respect to the
think
religious aspect.
that's you're picking of that such a character like Charles is very appropriate in this movie because
Yeah.
he kind of represent the US society, and
Yeah.
maybe if I'm not wrong, he exposed a little bit to Hinduism before that incident, right? And from
No,
that he no okay
no.
uh,
So the aspect that we are to explore here is his state of mind,
his
and
state of
why that night he encountered Devi, right?
mm,
So the state of mind is like you mentioned in your initial
very
description. He
disturbed.
was divorced. Yeah, he was
Mm,
disturbed because he was divorced. So he was the right before that scene. He says that when he crashes into that
mm,
valley, he says that this crash helped him like a reset. So
mm,
he lies down on the hay bale there and he starts thinking about himself. He spends time with himself. He tries resolving all the pain that he has in himself. and he's very joyful, and the tears of joy roll through his like his face. So he's in a very receptive mode. He's a seeker at that point of time. Now, that place where he crashed also has significance. That is nothing but a place where someone has already meditated. So in our philosophy, like we go to Himalayas. Why do we go? Because a lot of people have already meditated there. We feel that there is that energy there. That this Thala Purana, or Kshetra, the importance of the place, the ambience is also there. So when Charles, with that mindset, crashes in that place, he encounters Devi. Not like on any other day, any other place he would encounter Devi. So a lot of things come into place, and that's why that scene is so crucial for people to understand what's going on.
I mean, I will not go to the climax at this point, but there is
Yeah.
something relatable when he find the deep-rooted connection. I mean, with his granddaughter. But before
Yeah.
that, as I mentioned before, that I found that character very likable, Charles, the character of Charles,
Yeah.
because he had that feminine quality as well. He's a rough biker, and you can
Very.
imagine what kind of a character he would be. But I will let the viewers watch for themselves and find out themselves. But still, I can say that his character become very likable because he that have that feminine quality in him, the Shiv Shakti energy you were
Yeah.
talking about. So
Yeah.
what is the importance of that balance, and you try to show in with that movie?
Yeah. So the one of the most favorite personal favorites for me in the movie is the conversation between daughter and the father. Because this guy, based on daughters, because there was a long gap between their encounters. I mean, the daughter probably saw him few years back, and this guy got divorced. She didn't reach out to him, and there was some gap. So the way she knows her father is he's a very rugged guy, not very sophisticated, just a rough guy. But now when she comes back to her after a long time, he's talking about philosophy, he's talking about femininity, all that. So what he tries to explain that it's a very beautiful conversation in my understanding.
Yeah, there are a
If
lot
you
of
see it,
beautiful conversation in the movie, I
yeah,
must
yeah.
say.
Yeah, I would like to reveal one more thing. Like when he is talking, we couldn't focus it much, but there will be a Ardhanarishwara photo on his side table. So which is it is a symbolic to the conversation that they are going to have. So what he says is, I mean, I was very rough and I was wild. But when he gets divorced, he thinks that what he lacks in himself, he's not a complete man. For him to be complete man, he needs to add the qualities, like the feminine qualities. It's not about the sex of the person, but it's about the qualities, kind of qualities.
Qualities.
So though, like being very kind, caring, and content, all these qualities is what he was missing in his life. So when he was trying to cultivate those habits in himself, which is nothing but the Ardhanarishwara, where he represents half of him represents the masculine qualities and half of him represents the feminine qualities. That's the complete human, and that's what he's trying to be. And one more beautiful thing about him is he doesn't say that, oh, this is the truth. All of you must understand this. He is very humble. He says that I don't know, no one told me, but I found peace here. So I'm
Right.
following. It may not make sense to you. That shows the maturity of a seeker who thinks that I don't know. Maybe there is more to it. Maybe you find it in some other way. Totally fine. No problem. So those are the qualities of Charles that make us very likable. Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Prada of the Karma you mentioned before,
Karma. Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
always with him. And from
Yeah.
before that incident, he is kind. He was kind enough
Yeah.
to communicate with people, but at the same time, as a biker, as a that quality in your character, that you become very stoic, you become very like lone wolf kind of character. but he
Right.
always had that kindness. But after that interaction with
Incident.
Devi, he found himself what's the
Yes.
qualities in multifold in his character, and that came out,
Yes.
and that
Yes.
helps to rebuild the connection between his daughter, his granddaughter.
Yes.
And so, as
Yes.
you mentioned, that he is very humble, and he
Yes.
also encounter his another character. So you
Yeah.
will be the best person to explain that. So what about that? And it's
Okay.
something to do with the a conflict between the Bhakti tradition and evangelism, the Christian way of
Right.
life.
Right. So, like I mentioned, there was a conflict, the natural conflict in these families, because when I speak to people, say in the California region, who are very liberal, the bhakti versus evangelism thing is a very nuanced thing and very sensitive thing. We wanted to deal it very carefully. We didn't want to say it outright on the face and hurt anyone. But that's a
Exactly.
natural conflict in this kind of
Mm.
scenarios, because when I talk to people in California who have been exposed to yoga and Sanatana Dharma, Indian philosophy, Vedanta, all these things, they had this problem at home. Um, so the basic difference, I think, is like we just spoke about. We are not saying this is the truth. You have to follow this because I like it. You have to like it, and if you don't like it, you will be in hell. So there is no such concept. We believe that everyone can follow their own path and realize it in its own way. So to bring in this conflict, we got in that character, son-in-law character, Joel, where he's a staunch believer that this is it. You will
Mm.
eventually, even if you like it, even if you enjoy this whole journey, you are going to land in hell. This is not a permanent happiness because there is only one God and you have to believe only in him, was his argument. But
Mm.
what stands out here is Charles doesn't counter him, like he doesn't explain logics and he says that you are wrong. I'm like, no. He just distracts himself. He's mentally prepared not to spoil the
Mm.
family. He even participates in their prayers.
Mm.
But like you said, when you are that accommodating and nice, it'll come back to you. The nice thing will come back to you. That's what happens when his daughter in turn reciprocates to all these feelings. His son-in-law will remain stubborn, but his
Mm.
daughter reciprocates to his father, her father, because she didn't expect such maturity from her father. But when he
Mm.
saw he was so accommodating, she felt like I must reciprocate to my father and respect his choice. So that's how we dealt that evangelism concept. And at the end of the movie, also, she very gently says that my father, yes, he's believing in something which you and I don't understand, but he's minding his own business. He minds his business. He doesn't bother others, which is more important. Like when you are very aggressive evangelist, you feel like you have to convert people into your faith. That's not required. Uh, yeah, so that's the point we were trying to make.
And okay, that's very nicely explained. Thank you. And well, before we go to the another character which I liked very much, uh,
Mhm.
well, his granddaughter. But before that, let's talk about Henry. There's something about that
Okay.
character, Henry, if you can explain.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm like I said, I can only probably discuss these details in Sangam talks because we have such a good audience who can
Thank
enjoy
you.
this kind of conversation.
Mm.
In other places, they may not make much sense to them because the audience are really wide. So I'm happy that you're giving me this opportunity to talk to them. So Henry, see, for everything there are two aspects. One is the filmmaking aspect and one other is the philosophical aspect. So,
Mm.
in terms of filmmaking aspect, when Charles, like I said, could have thought this is a bad dream or something. So we wanted to reinforce. So we wanted another character.
Mm.
But the philosophical part of it is Henry is actually the Henry is like the guru of Charles because Charles needed some direction. And Henry was already in that path. He was also a biker. He drove to Himalayas. He was a Devi Upasaka. He meditated in that very valley, and he he's still around to guide people who are with this inclination. There is a small twist on what he's doing
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
but we will leave that
If
to
you
audience.
like, leave it to
Yeah,
the audience. There's a twist
yeah,
there. Yeah,
yeah,
it will
yeah.
be more
But
interesting to watch the movie that way.
yeah, yeah. So this also, Henry also underlines the point that it was not just a dream, it was not some fantasy hallucination.
Mm.
He, in fact, was meditating in that place, because of which that place has some significance. He has been meditating this for years. And to show that it's not a mental problem of Charles and Henry, we also bring in the hearts of Henry's hearts, which also sees Devi. Like sometimes we say that animals have higher perception when compared to humans in certain areas, right? So this horse was also able to see Devi, which probably was not visible to other humans except for Henry and Charles. So, and horse is very native to Texas. Like people raise horses here, and it's a very local concept. So that was also very interesting me to the interesting part to me, that I could bring in elements which are very local to Texas, but still have a play in a very important role. So Henry is like the guide. He's like the guru in our thing, who guides Charles in the right direction.
Well, in current pop culture in US about
Mhm.
the Hollywood movies, I found one thing that after after watching movies, people are very interested about finding clues here and there, the
Yes,
symbolism you're talking about, and
yes,
I like that very much. That give the movies a more profundity in it. And
right.
well, maybe that's something we are missing in Bollywood, in Hindi movies, in Indian movies, but not all of them. We already seen movies like Kantara, and
Yes,
many such movies. They are beautiful, and
yes,
of course we have a great tradition of filmmaking in India as well. There are great
yeah, of
people
course.
such as Satyajit Roy.
Yes,
But I found it very interesting, and like MCU movies, like and in historical dramas, all of them, you intentionally put some symbolism in that movie as well, and I found it
yeah,
very interesting. One of this thing is that a particular prayer that main
right.
protagonist used during his daughter's visit to his house. If you
Yes.
want to talk about that.
Yeah, so this was part of healing the relationship between father and daughter. So when the daughter and son-in-law come to the dining table and they want to do their prayer, Charles participates. So the next day, when the daughter is leaving, she says that, why don't you say your prayer, your grace? And he would be hesitant because the son-in-law would not like it. But daughter says, this is your home and you should go ahead and we will see how it is. And then he starts the Brahmarpanam prayer, which is which is the prayer that we use generally, like to say that everything is Brahman. What we are offering, what is being offered, the fire, what is being in the fire, everything is Brahman. So that's a beautiful prayer that, and I got an opportunity to put it in that particular scene, and it came out very well, and it was very heartwarming. It was also helping to bridge the gap that the characters had, and
Hmm.
it also highlights how uncomfortable the son-in-law becomes when he hears that prayer.
And
And if you see the
maybe.
little girl,
Hmm.
if you see the little girl, she enjoys it too, because she is so innocent. If
Exactly.
you remember, he Charles says that I'm going to fill her head with a lot of questions, but at the
Hmm.
end of the movie he says that she's already full of questions. So the idea is, when you are full of questions, when you have the guts to question, when you have the liberty to question, you will naturally probably lean into these dharmic principles. But when you are in the grip of fear, when you can't question, when you are restrained, you live in fear, not freedom. So
Hmm.
that was a subtle thing we wanted to say, that when a kid is full of questions, she will for sure find truth, and she will go on a journey. Like, maybe this is not right, maybe this is not right, and she will uh, like realize her own self by questioning, which is great.
Exactly.
So
And
yeah,
well, you mentioned about little girl, Charles'
yeah,
granddaughter. Well,
yeah,
something happened with her as well. If you don't want
yeah,
to reveal too much, I mean, it will be better for the viewers as well. But that much we can do, that how she help him to connect his find the questions within after
yeah.
his interaction with
Right.
Devi, and
Yes.
that's very
So
profound and very beautiful in this movie.
like you mentioned, the visual part they can see, but the whole idea is the granddaughter asks few questions which sound very normal, but because Charles is looking for some answers, her questions trigger an answer within him which he finds very meaningful, and that's what will take the movie to the climax. So it was like Charles did not become a Devi Upasaka overnight. He had an experience almost a decade back. And then the neighbor character, which we will probably talk about, she asks, "Does Devi appear to you again in your spiritual practices?" He says, "No." I didn't even understand why Devi appeared back then, and but the philosophy helped me heal all my pain, like all the backlog I had. But he still says, "I don't know if there is something called Devi. I don't know. I don't care actually because the philosophy itself is helping me. That's what my mind is able to grasp. Beyond that, I don't know." That's the stage he was in the beginning of the movie. But when he meets the daughter, when he
Mm.
meets the granddaughter, and she asks him a couple of questions and he answers them, then he is like, "Oh man, this is what I was missing all these days." So he had the burden of like some burden with respect to his relationship with daughter. That is resolved. Now that the daughter came, so that is gone.
Mm.
Now, what is the next step? That's when she asks these questions, he realizes that it's the complete surrender that's the answer. He asked so many questions. Now there is no, it's not the time for questions. The questions are over. There are no answers. The only answer is surrender. So surrender is a very important quality for some upasaka to realize the next level of truth. Because logic can take us only to some extent. Beyond
Mm.
that, there is no logic. We'll have to stop there if we want, but a seeker wouldn't stop. So the complete surrender comes as an answer. And that's how the granddaughter helps grandfather realize his the last leg of spirituality, I guess. Yeah.
Talking about surrender, we also find a great act of kindness by Charles. And there
Yeah.
comes also his friend, that neighbor.
Yeah.
So, yeah, please let us explore that part as well.
So Freya, if you see the way we conceived Freya character is
Mm.
she is a parallel to Charles' character. Like she, if you see her attire, her dressing, I mean her makeup and her colored hair and all that, what we are trying to say is she's as rugged and rough like Charles was a decade back, like a biker. She's not a
Mm.
biker, but she's as a rebel. She questions, she challenges the
But with a good
regular.
heart, like Charles.
Yeah, so she's an young girl. She has questions,
Mm.
so she challenges everything, but she also got sensible. If you remember, there is a dialogue where says that, "Oh, I have seen this from the age of 14. Everyone wants to mess around with girls," something like that. Everyone,
Mm.
like all the people, all the audience were wondering, like, why is it relevant in this movie? That particular dialogue was to establish the maturity of this character called Freya.
Mm.
So she was matured, but she didn't know what next. And when Charles leaves, if you see, she takes over. She starts exploring that icon Charles left because she is convinced now because of Charles, like an example, Charles she has seen. She knows what Charles was before, what he has
Mm.
become after adopting this lifestyle. So she is now, because she also being a rebel and looking for some kind of meaning in her life, she is now exploring this. So it's an organic thing. He didn't evangelize Freya. He didn't
Mm.
evangelize the daughter. He didn't evangelize granddaughter. He did nothing. But because he is such a good example, they start following him.
And the
So
act of kindness,
yeah, yeah,
maybe
yeah,
at the very last of the movie when it ends.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We again talk about all these icons, right? Hindu icons, whether these murtis, Devata murtis and photos, are they required or not? Charles, who keeps them so preciously, manages them so preciously. At the beginning of the movie, at the end, he says that I think he thinks he has graduated from that, which is also a very important thing. He says that he's carrying his icons, but when this neighbor asks, "Are you sure?" Then he says that, "Yeah, I'm carrying Devi in my heart, and she's always available for me." So it's like he has realized something in stages. He didn't become a like you were jealous. I mean, he didn't have
Mm.
it didn't have it happened to him on one night, but he gradually graduated. I mean, he persistently perceived it, understood it, and eventually, after a decade and a half, he was able to attain that level of maturity. We being born and brought up in India with all these inputs from parents, grandparents, gurus, and all the media, in fact, we could probably like graduate much faster, but unfortunately, most of us are stuck in the survival,
Mm.
not the spiritual journey, right?
Yeah,
So, yeah,
survival. These two characters, they are very pragmatic. They see the world as it is, and of course,
yes,
the world is not, very kind to us. It's not made that way. Devi himself, he is the embodiment of Prakriti, and he made it that way.
yes,
So it's
yes,
not about, as try to show to the viewers through that movie, that yes,
yeah,
it's pragmatic to understand how to be strong, independent, to live properly in this world, in this mundane world. But the in finding the inner self, finding the peace
yes,
within, finding the real meaning of life within, that's the main goal, and
yeah,
they found it. I mean,
yes,
Charles found it, and that's the
yeah,
whole storyline, and that the whole character arc you made for Charles.
yes,
That's very
yeah,
interesting. So, before I end, I would like to ask you what you are thinking about the finding more audiences to not only this movie, maybe, but if you have any, aim for the future, and
yeah.
if you thinking about how to get to some, if I say any main stream movie.
Mainstream,
Mm.
yes. So that's the one of the toughest questions I think that we have to face
Yeah,
because
I must
making
mention
content.
that you are doing it all by yourself, and that's not an easy task at all. I mean, it's an immense task to handle by one person,
Yeah.
and I must congratulate you. That's you are doing a great job.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and there are some kind people who joined me after I made the project. They took 50% stake just to help me out, even though they know there is no money in that. But for
Mm,
any content to reach wider audience, there needs to be a commercial viability. We need to have core target audience identified and we need to get them excited. At this point of time, this audience that we are trying to target are very scattered. There are some Western Hindus who don't even know that such films are being made. And there are Indians who may not be comfortable with that kind of English film and with such kind of niche treatment because they are exposed to total different kind of movies. Yeah, for sure, if I can make Kantara, that's wonderful. But
mm,
unfortunately, we are subjected to very limited budgets. So we are trying to
mm,
find very authentic stories
mm.
that can still carry the same message with within very low budget range. So I'm committed to this space. I'm trying to consolidate this audience, and one day we will have audience, most probably much sooner than later, so that we can all make feature films in this genre without wondering who would watch it. Right now, I'm finding it difficult to find the target audience. That's why I'm unable to convince the producers to put the money. But once they know there is audience and there is money, I'm sure lot more people will come into this field and more dharmic movies will be made.
Thank you so much, Trivikramji. And from the bottom of my heart, I wish that Devi Bala Tripurasundari blessed you and blessed your work. And I think that's I'm talking about from a vested interest as well as an Indian, as an Sanatani Hindu, so that the cross cultural thing happen and we become more accepted. Not about acceptance, the philosophy, the Indian philosophy, which is so profound and so beautiful, should spread through the people all over the world.
Yeah, I should acknowledge that without the grace of Devi, because I'm not an expert in the scriptures, I didn't know so much about the Shakti and Shri Vidya tradition when I started. But so many things, there were so many things which also made me believe that there is something called surrender. I also am like any other guy who thinks, oh, there is logic. Oh, how can we believe in this? It's a regular mindset. But while I was making Chiquita, I understood the importance of surrender. I had experiences which I felt like are happening and were beyond my control and are happening only because of some grace. So I don't know whether it's in this life or the previous life. I already have enough grace of Devi. I'm grateful to her. I mean, for the opportunity of making the film and having conversations like this, right? If I had made any other movie, no one would have spoken to me about all these concepts. So I think I'm already blessed, like you mentioned. And yeah, we would like to make even more deeper, meaningful movies in future. Most probably
Okay,
by the time this interview is online, the movie will also be available on YouTube so that all the Sangam Talks audience can watch it. If they like
that's great.
that's wonderful. If they do not like it, their reviews and comments will be a great learning experience for me, because it's like a litmus test for me, because these are the audience I've made the movie for. So let's see how people like it.
Of course, they will like it. I mean, from my personal point of view, I liked it very much. And not only it's profoundly philosophical, spiritual, but also entertaining. So that's the part, as a director, you make possible. So before we end, I thank you once again and congratulations and for your future projects as well. Best of luck for that. From the bottom of my heart, I wish you all the best, and we will end with the trailer of this movie.
Sure. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Namaste.
Hey, honey, ready for some blood?
What have you done now, Charles?
Well, the people I've told that story to generally think I need medical help, so I prefer to keep it to myself.
You don't even leave your house to socialize with people. Convince me you're not depressed.
Honey?
You know me, don't you?
Do I really?
I can't endure another low, Charles.
Let me introduce my family to you. It's my daughter Anna, her husband Joel, and my little Olivia.
Can life just rejuvenate when kids are around, huh?
Were you upset with me? Don't lie to me.
I realized that what I lacked in my life was the essence of femininity. And I don't mean another woman.
¿Viste una chiquita?
Why'd you say that? What in the... ¿Quién eres, Chiquita?